Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nico, the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, I'm bringing you guys Week 13 quarterback start or sit decisions for fantasy football in 2020. Inside of this video, I'm going to be discussing whether you should start or sit your quarterbacks in every single matchup from Sunday all the way till Tuesday football, because we do not have a Thursday night football game tonight. Now, before I get into it, I'd like to ask if that you are a new person watching this video, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below, because not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win that 2020 Fantasy Football Championship. And real quick, before we get even deeper into it, I'd like to give you guys a quick word from my friends and my sponsor over at OverlayDFS.com. OverlayDFS.com is my favorite way to play daily fantasy sports on the interwebs. They do have two options on their website, the progressive tournaments as well as the matchup shop. But my favorite place to make that young moolah, like my name was Lil Wayne, is on the matchup shop. It's pretty simple. Who scores more fantasy points? Some examples from Monday Night Football. Miles Sanders, -9 fantasy points, or Boston Scott, +9 fantasy points. DK Metcalf -0.5 a point, or Tyler Lockett +0.5 a point. It is so simple. You can put up as much money as you want, and it is so easy to win. Anyone can do it. You guys do research all week long to win your fantasy football matchup, so why not win some extra cash on top of it on OverlayDFS.com. Again, make sure you guys check it out, OverlayDFS.com. Now we are back. Let's get into it. Week 13 quarterback start or sit decisions. We begin with the Cleveland Browns at the Les Titans, and the Les Titans laid down the pipe. That's pretty much what they did last week up against the Indianapolis Colts. It was a certified murder like Julius fucking Caesar. They stabbed the Indianapolis Colts 53 million times. I like Ryan Tannehill in this matchup. Now, the Browns defense is no pushover, and I expect the Browns to be running the ball a decent amount in this game. That's why I'm going to be sitting down Baker Mayfield. I expect this game to be close, and how the Browns win football games is by running the ball, not throwing it necessarily 70 million times, where Baker Mayfield is worthy of a start in fantasy football. For the Titans, though, I do actually like Ryan Tannehill in this matchup. A.J. Brown and Corey Davis have looked pretty solid this season, especially Brown, who looks like he may be one of the better wide receivers in the NFL on a talent standpoint. So I really do like Ryan Tannehill here up against the Cleveland Browns. Next game here, we got the Las Vegas Raiders at the New York Football Jets, and in this one, I like Derek Carr. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Nick, Derek Carr literally bet me over the table and fucked my lineup last week. I understand. He literally was trash last week, but you take that Atlanta game and you throw it out the fucking window, because it is not going to happen again. Gruden does not get his ass plowed in 2 times in a row by garbage team. The New York Football Jets defense is far worse than the Atlanta Falcons. He is going to play much better in this matchup. It is bounce back season for Lord Derek Carr in this matchup up against the New York Football Jets. Sam Darnold hasn't thrown a fucking touchdown since September, so don't start him in your lineup. He frankly has not been good, even if the Raiders defense does seem like a juicier matchup for Darnold. There's legitimately just no way you could be starting Mono Man Sam in your lineup this week. He's probably going to be seeing ghosts up against the Raiders. Next matchup here, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Minnesota Vikings, and in this one, I like, and you want to know who else likes it? You like that, Kirk Cousins, quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk has been pretty solid this season. He has his ups and he has his downs, but overall, he's one of the safer quarterbacks in fantasy football. He never really throws 4 tutties, and he never really throws just 7 million interceptions to where he's leaving you with like 2 points, and you're feeling sad. This game screams to me the Jaguars get their ass fisted by Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins gets a little loose in this one. Dalvin Cook is going banged up into this game, so I don't think they give him a heavy dosage. I still think he's worthy of a start in fantasy football, but this means it is going to be a Kirk Cousins to Jefferson and Thielen game. The only issue with Cousins is there are games where he fades away like his name was Michael fucking Jordan. He hits him with the fade away, and he just doesn't do anything because they run a train using the running attack of Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. But in a lot of games, we do see Kirk Cousins able to air the ball out, and I feel like that's going to be the tail of this matchup up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mike Glennon, the giraffe, the man with the biggest neck you've ever fucking seen, should be a sit-worthy candidate in this game. He actually didn't look all that bad last week, but I don't really expect the Glennoninator to be firing it up on Sunday. Next game here, we got the Miami Dolphins up against the Cincinnati Bengals in Miami. Now, there is definitely a 50-50 chance Ryan Fitzpatrick plays, and the other 50% chance that Tua Tagovailoa ends up suiting up on Sunday. As a Miami Dolphins fan, I would prefer if Tua Tagovailoa started, but as a fantasy football fan, you're going to want to prefer Ryan Fitzpatrick, because if Fitzpatrick gets a spot here up against the Cincinnati Bengals, he will not disappoint. He'll probably end up throwing like 7 million touchdowns and a couple of picks, because that's what Ryan Fitzpatrick does. But the biggest worry about the Dolphins is that when they get up, Brian Flores doesn't really stomp on the fucking throat of the other team. They kind of just slow the game down. And the same thing happens when Tua is in the game. They kind of slow down. They don't really go for the fucking straight up murder at the hands of Tua Tagovailoa or Ryan Fitzpatrick. So if Fitzpatrick starts, I'm playing him. Tua, if he starts, I would kind of want to start him, but at the same time, I'd probably just let him sit down on the bench. Brandon Allen just is not a usable asset in fantasy football, especially going up against a tough defense in the Miami Dolphins. Next game here, we got the Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans. Now, this might be the first time all season where old man Phil Rivers, the man with 12,000 fucking kids, the sex god, Philip Rivers, is actually listed as a start. Now, this is strictly based upon the matchup. The Houston Texans defense is bad news bears. They lost their best corner to PEDs. The Texans lost their best wide receiver as well to PEDs. Shout out to Will Fuller. So this is going to be a closer matchup, and I think Philip Rivers actually gets the go to air it out in this matchup. Now, there's obviously always a worry when you're starting the Indianapolis Colts quarterback that they're just going to run the ball 7 million times. But that also comes with upside because Philip Rivers dumps the ball off a bunch of times in the game, and that boosts his stats based on these easy dump-offs. So I like Philip Rivers here up against the Houston Texans. He's kind of one of the last quarterbacks that I'm really willing to start this week, so he's not really a top 5, top 10 option, but he's definitely a startable asset this week up against the Texans. Even without Mr. Will Fuller, Deshaun Watson should be able to play fine in this matchup up against the Indianapolis Colts. In an AFC North matchup, I like Deshaun Watson here. Not amazing upside in this one up against the Colts, but Deshaun Watson is always able to be a startable fantasy football quarterback. Next game here, we got the Lions at the Chicago Bears. Now, I almost wanted to do some mental gymnastics to tell you guys to start kissing titties Mitchell Trubisky, and then the more I thought about it, the more I realized Mitch Trubisky is a ticking fucking time bomb. We saw him not play like complete and utter shit last week up against the Green Bay Packers, and I feel like that one sense he sniffed a little bit of greatness, and now he's going to hit you with the 619 Rey Mysterio, so I don't feel ultra confident firing up Mr. Mitchell kissing titties Trubisky in this matchup. Matthew Stafford has been iffy this season. They did end up firing their head coach, Matt Patricia, so we will have to see this week how this offense goes. It seems like Kenny G, Kenny Bones, Kenny Golladay probably won't suit up, so this is not a matchup I love for Matthew Stafford up against the Bears defense. If you guys have ended up enjoying thus far, again, please make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Next game here, the New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons, and I like Taysom Hill yet again in this matchup. Now, Hill doesn't do a whole lot of that passing thing, but he does do a whole lot of running and scoring fucking rushing touchdowns, so you almost really just have to start him up against the Atlanta Falcons. I understand the Falcons laid Derek Carr in a fucking casket and put him 6 feet down for his big dirt nap, but I think that Taysom Hill here bounces back, especially with that Taysom Hill is able to play very well up against them, considering their defense is not that good. Matt Ryan going up against the New Orleans Saints. This is definitely a tough matchup, especially if he's going to be without Julio Jones this week. I still think Calvin Ridley is startable in fantasy football, but Matt Ryan, I expect maybe a couple of picks in this matchup, to be honest with you. I don't love him this week. Next game here, we got the New York Football Giants at the Seattle Seahawks, and in this one, I like Russell Wilson. This may have been a game where I actually attacked Daniel Jones and went heavy on him this week because the Seahawks defense sucks so much that Carson Wentz even looked all right against him last week, even though he's very bad. Russell Wilson has looked very good this season. He has had his up games, some down games, but overall, he's a very safe quarterback for fantasy football. And the Giants defense, while it isn't absolutely dick cheese, it's pretty average. Russell Wilson should be able to easily pick apart that defense and dissect them like he's in a high school biology class. Colt McCoy is going to be a sit for me because, frankly, I don't know what to think about Colt McCoy. That's really how I feel. Colt McCoy has had games in the NFL where this man looks legitimately good. There's games where it looks bad, and there's games where he looks like a middling quarterback. Up against the Seattle Seahawks, I feel like it's going to be more of a middling quarterback type of game where he's throwing into the game late, and it's going to result in a couple of INTs that are obviously not worthy of starting in fantasy football. Next game here, we got the LA Rams at the Arizona Cardinals, and in this one, I like both quarterbacks, but I'm always nervous about starting Jared Goff. Why is this? It's because some games you see Jared Goff go out there and he looks like the reincarnate of Aaron fucking Rodgers, right? He goes out there and he's slicing and dicing through the defense. Then there's other games where Jared Goff looks like fucking the reincarnate of Mark Sanchez or Mitch Trubisky or something, and he can't read a defense worth anything. So I don't know which Jared Goff we are going to get. It's pretty much random based on the week, but let's hope it's Mr. Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, because this one could be a high-scoring affair. In Arizona, Kyler Murray is a must-start quarterback at this point in the season. I understand last week he took a dump right on your chest, and you did not enjoy it at all. He even signed Kyler on there in his shit, but at the end of the day, he's going to have bounce-back games. He doesn't play that shit pretty much ever this season. That was by far his worst game, and I expect a big bounce-back out of the Cardinals and friends and Kyler Murray. Next game here, we got the New England Deflatriots at the Los Angeles Superchargers. At this point in the season, Justin Herbert has elevated himself into fantasy football fucking stardom. He's going to be one of those guys that gets drafted so high next year. It's going to be insane, and if they switch coaching, maybe they aren't airing the ball out as much, and Justin Herbert slaps you right in the fucking face with his hand or something. I don't know, but this year, the guy's on fire. You have to start him in this game up against the Patriots. If the Patriots are able to ink back into this one and fight back and forth with them, Justin Herbert should be able to play good. My only worry is that Bill Belichick is just a fucking genius, and somehow I feel like Justin Herbert will get deleted out of this game. But the rest of me thinks that Justin Herbert goes to absolute pound town up against the New England Deflatriots. Cam Newton has his games, then he has bad games up against the Chargers. You would think he'd have a good game, but I don't feel ultra confident starting him because I feel like they'll just be able to run all over the Chargers defense, and Cam Newton won't have to do too much to win this game, meaning he won't have that great of a fantasy day. Next game here, we got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Green Bay Packers. I almost said the Green Bay Pastors. That would be a holy game in Green Bay, but Carson Wentz is a sit. Who would have fucking guessed it? Carson Wentz is a certified bum. I've talked about this in many videos on my channel about my dislike for Carson Wentz. The Philadelphia Eagles fans get down on their knees and blow this man who is absolutely fucking atrocious. And I actually think maybe it has turned. Maybe now Carson Wentz is going to have to blow them to not get rocks thrown at him because Carson Wentz has been completely and utterly awful. They pay him way too much money. Up against the Packers, I do not trust it. He looked all right last week up against the Seattle Seahawks. Why? Because he was playing up against the Seattle Seahawks and his day was saved by that bullshit touchdown later in the game to fuck my bet up on Seattle -6.5. So fuck you, Carson Wentz. I don't really like Carson Wentz at all. I never really have. For years, I've called him a fraud, and maybe, just maybe, I was right. Aaron Rodgers is a must-start. The Eagles' defense is not all that good. Devontae Adams is going to make Darius Slay look like a bitch boy, just like DK Metcalf did last week. I love Aaron Rodgers in this matchup. Next game here, we got Sunday Night Football between the Denver Broncos at the Kansas City Chiefs. The first time these two teams played, Patrick Mahomes and friends murdered the Denver Broncos. Now, Pat Mahomes didn't play all that great in that game because they were up. They were kind of running the ball, but he still did good for fantasy football. And here up against the Broncos, again, I expect a big matchup out of Patty Mahomes. Drew Lock, the horse cock one, is going to be a sit for me in this matchup. I just don't feel like the Chiefs are going to be some cake for Drew Lock to cut into in this matchup. I just don't love it, especially after coming off the Corona protocol where he hasn't even played in a week. Next game here, we got the beginning of Monday Football, the 5 p.m. Monday game, the Washington Football Team at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Alex Smith has actually not been all that bad for fantasy football, so I will not completely slander this man in this video, but I don't love him this week up against one of the toughest defenses in the NFL. Ben Roethlisberger going up against the Washington Football Team definitely isn't a cupcake matchup, but Big Ben has looked good this season. Didn't look all that great on Wednesday Football up against the Ravens, but that was overall just a sloppy game from both sides. I expect to bounce back out of Big Ben in this matchup. The later Monday night football game, the 8 o'clock game, Bills at the San Francisco 49ers. Nick Mullins, 9-inch Nick Mullins, has actually looked pretty decent this season. But then once you're like, holy shit, Nick Mullins is looking good, then he instantly bends you over the table and sticks it in there without even spitting on it. It's how rude of Nick Mullins. But with that said, Nick Mullins, I don't like him this week up against the Buffalo Bills. I feel like this game is going to be all Buffalo. And if the Niners are close in this one, I expect it to be due to the rushing attack of the San Francisco 49ers. Josh Allen is going to be a start for me, obviously. Even though Goff and friends didn't look all that great up against the 49ers when the 49ers ate a W in that matchup last week, I just feel like Josh Allen is simply a different fucking breed and is going to be great in this matchup up against the Niners. And final game of the week. You waited all week for Tuesday night. Cowboys at the Baltimore Ravens. Does Lamar get to play in this game? I have zero idea. But if he does end up playing this week on Tuesday Night Football, I will expect a big matchup out of him here up against the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys' defense is dog shit, and Lamar Jackson has been able to easily expose them throughout his career, and that is not the Cowboys, but he's been able to expose these poor defenses and look great. And then once he plays up against a good team, Lamar lays down on his Tempur-Pedic bed and goes to fucking sleep. I love Lamar in this matchup up against the Dallas Cowboys if he plays. If not, are we going to see RG3s, or are we going to be saying Trace McSorley, who threw a tug at the end of the game? Who really knows? But if Jackson plays, which I assume he will, I suit him up on Tuesday Night Football, and Andy Dalton up against the Ravens defense. Seems like you're asking for trouble, so sit him down. So thank you guys all for watching this video. Again, if you did end up enjoying it at any point throughout, please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. I love each and every single one of you motherfuckers. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you guys check out overlaydfs.com. Link down below in the description. I love you all. Have a great rest of your guys' day. As always, good boy.